Welcome back to Honorable Men Discord. Today's topic is speechless. Speechless. We have women that are crying out in Afghanistan. They're pleading to be heard. So it's been 3 years since the U.S. military left Afghanistan. And I don't know if many of you remember the scene. Let me adjust my camera. I don't know if many of you remember the images of men on the wings of the plane looking to escape the Taliban. The men of Afghanistan were so desperate to get out of Afghanistan. They were on the wings of the U.S. military aircrafts, hanging on for dear life. And if you don't remember that, just take a look at this video. Now, since that time, a lot has been going on. Most recently, the Taliban government has banned women from seeking education. They banned them from speaking, and they also banned them for exposing themselves. The women have to be fully clothed, covering themselves. And I just found that to be interesting because I just thought about how extreme that may appear to people watching that, hearing about it. But it's one of those things where if you're hearing that for the first time and you weren't aware of that going on in Afghanistan, do you think it's crazy? Do you think it's extreme? I have my thoughts on it. But here's the thing. In the Western world, some may look at the Western world as extreme also. All right? So the Taliban is ran by a supreme leader, and the supreme leader has pretty much made that decision to put all those restrictions on the women in Afghanistan. But if you're looking at what they're going through as extreme, there's a few things I want you to consider in just a bit. But before I get into that, when I was putting this together, I thought of the Scarface movie. There's a scene in Scarface, I think, when he's in the nightclub. And I remember it vaguely because I haven't seen the movie in a while, but he was talking about how people or the world find it necessary to have a bad guy.
You need people like me. You need people like me so you can point your fucking fingers and say, that's the bad guy.
And the necessity of having the bad guy is the bad guy gives you an object or someone to point at, so you can take all the attention off of yourself. And that scene is very powerful, and it may go over some people's heads, but in a lot of ways, as an outsider not living in Afghanistan, it would be easy for me to say they're the bad guys. And by no means am I saying what they're doing to women is right, but it would be easy to pass judgment and say they're the bad guys. They're evil. They're extreme. They're unfair. They're unjust. But the interesting thing about all of this is that I really feel like we're living on two separate ends of the spectrum. All right? Not a literal spectrum, figuratively speaking, right? So you have the Taliban and what they're doing in Afghanistan on one spectrum, and then you have the Western world on another spectrum. So I challenge anyone who would investigate about what's going on in Afghanistan. I challenge them to really consider what they deem to be extreme. Because I jotted some things down. The Taliban, so we know the Taliban, they're banning women from speaking, education, and no exposure of their body. So they want them fully clothed. They want them fully clothed, just as you see it in the thumbnail, right? So you take that, and then you look at the Western world. The Western world, women can speak against the government. In some cases, women are opposing men. They're opposing men in public.
Yeah, man, I'm getting up, man. Get up. You're assaulting me, man. Oh, I'm assaulting you?
Yeah. I'm assaulting you? I'm assaulting you?
Behind closed door. They're challenging men.
Leave this door.
What up?
Leave this door.
What up? What up, nigga? Come on, nigga. Come on, nigga. What's up, nigga? Come on, go back there, bitch.
And before anyone gets up in arms about what I'm saying, just consider all of this. So in the Western world, women can do all those things that I mentioned as far as their freedom of speech. As far as education, you can get your bachelor's, your master's, your doctorate degree. And then as far as clothing, you could pretty much wear anything, right? You could wear revealing clothing. You could wear tight-fitting clothing, exposing the contour of your body. We have a lot of freedoms and liberty here. Would you not agree? So the interesting thing about this is the question that I pose is, who's more extreme? And you might say, what do you mean? Who's more extreme? They're more extreme. They're taking away people's human rights. I could agree with that, but that doesn't mean that we're not more extreme than the Taliban, right? And I can say that because in the Western world, we're so extreme, people can do pretty much anything they want, right? We've gotten to a place where you could change your sex, gender. We have pronouns now. You can pretty much wear what you want. If you change your sex, in some cases you're allowed to enter the bathroom of your choosing based on the sex that you changed into. Are these things that I just mentioned not extreme? I'm just playing devil's advocate, right? In the Western society, women fought for equal opportunity, equal rights, the ability to earn a decent wage as their male counterparts. I'm not disagreeing or agreeing. I'm playing devil's advocate. Women have earned rights in the Western world to the point where some men would believe and say that women have become masculine because of those rights. So in terms of the ability to earn, you have some women feeling like because they earn more than their men, they can talk down to the men, right? It's one of those things where, and that bred the whole movement of I don't need no man, right? Because of their ability to earn. And it's great that women have the ability to earn, but it's almost an illusion. And you might say, what are you talking about? It's an illusion, right? Forgive me for fixing my camera. I don't know what's going on today. Actually, it's the New York roads that's going on today. But it's almost an illusion because, once again, just think of the imaginary spectrum I'm talking about. The Taliban on one end, Western civilization on the other end. There's so much freedoms in Western civilization. You have women who make a lot of money thinking they can talk down to men. And it's given them a false sense of reality. All right? Because here's the thing. If hypothetically one day men decided you know what, we're going to take those liberties away. What could women do? All right, I know if women come across this this video, they're not going to like what I'm saying, but this is just reality. It's a full sense of reality. You see, the Taliban is exercising what men always knew existed. It's pure dominance. We're not even talking about education, all right? Because I'm not here to debate, you know, whether or not women are smarter than men. And that's another thing the Western civilization has presented. It presented competition. I remember back a few years back, I want to say in the 90s, there was a Gatorade commercial featuring Michael Jordan. And I don't know the female's name. I think she was a professional soccer player. I'm not even sure. But the music that was played in the background of the commercial was, anything you can do, I can do better.
Anything you can do, I can do better. I can do anything better than you.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can.
Western civilization has gone as far as not only give women equality and rights, but it's also placed men and women up against each other in competition. And that's what's going on now. You can disagree, but just look around you. It's competition. It's not just about equal rights. It's about being competitive. It's about dominating. The high-earning women, some high-earning women, not all. Everything I say it's a case-by-case thing, all right? We're not saying all women are doing these things, but some women that are high earners, as I mentioned before, feel as though the men that are in their lives are beneath them. And again, the difference between the Taliban and Western civilization is the Taliban, they're just exercising what men already know, is that men, if they chose, can completely dominate a system. So here in the Western world is exercising inclusion. All right, so it's basically men saying, you know what, we hear the words that the women are saying. Unlike the Taliban doesn't even want to hear what women have to say. They don't even want to educate the women. They want them to keep their mouth closed. They don't want them educated, and they want them fully clothed. So it's almost like they just want servants. It's like modern day slavery, in my opinion. But then on the other end of the spectrum, we have extreme liberties and freedom. So as I mentioned before, you can change your sex, change your name, your pronouns. You can do just about anything under the sun in the Western civilization. And the $1 million question is, how is that working out for us? And I don't mean to digress and get off the subject of Speechless, but you really have to ask yourself, who's really extreme, the Taliban or Western civilization? Now, if you're gonna, as I mentioned, do what Scarface did in the Scarface movie and point the finger at the Taliban as the bad guys, maybe it's because, once again, you don't want to point the finger at what's going on in Western civilization. Because in all honesty, some people could look at Western civilization as crazy and extreme. So again, in no way am I saying what's going on in the Taliban is fair. I personally believe women should have the right to speak. That's a basic human right. They should have the right to speak. They should have the right to get an education. Now, as far as the garments are concerned, that's debatable because based on religious beliefs, I'm not going to say that the women of Afghanistan deserve the rights of Western civilization. I'm not going to say that they should be able to wear yoga pants, like the video that I did on yoga pants, or tight, revealing clothing. because I don't see the benefit in that. You see, men believe we operate off of logic, and I don't see the logic in women overexposing themselves. I don't see the logic in it. And that's the whole reason of having a channel like this, because by all means, debate me in the comments. This has to be the worst day, by the way, for me, for my phone holder. It's all over the place. But yes, this is an interesting topic. But I found a few things online that I wanted to share with you. So please check this out. This is some stuff that I found from BBC News on the whole Taliban regime and what's going on in Afghanistan. Take a look at this.
Every moment you feel like you're in a prison. Even breathing becomes difficult.
We're like dead bodies moving around. We can't talk. We can't do anything.
This is a country where women are increasingly being pushed out of view. Their freedoms crushed bit by bit by a relentless series of diktats. The latest, a published law. This section says that if a woman must leave her home out of necessity, she's obliged to cover her face and body, and her voice must not be heard. We've had to be very careful and discreet when talking to women here because they're already operating in an environment of brutal restrictions. And now the Taliban's morality police have been given sweeping powers. It's only been a few weeks since the law was announced, so it's unclear how stringently it'll be implemented. But already there's a ripple effect of fear that you feel when speaking to people here. We meet teenage girls who've already lost 3 crucial years of education. Their voices might need to be hidden, but they want their words to be heard.
If we go out, we're scared. If we take a bus or remove our masks, we're scared. If we speak louder, we're scared. There's so much fear and stress. If we can't speak, then why go out at all? Why even live?
Until last year, groups of women took to the streets demanding their rights, risking violence and detention. The Taliban cracked down on the marches until they stopped altogether.
Now, some of those images, particularly the one of the women getting hosed down, reminds me of what happened back in 1963 in Birmingham, Alabama, when during the civil rights movement, African Americans were hosed down by firemen for protesting in the street. So this resonates deeply with me because I understand what those women are going through just off of the history of blacks in America. So I could relate to what they're going through. I didn't live during that time, but learning about your history and seeing some of the stuff that's recorded from years past, you feel for those women. But again, in closing, I just want you to ask yourself, what do you consider to be extreme? And I also want you to be honest. Is Western civilization not extreme? Could you honestly answer that? Because I can. Western civilization is extreme. And I know I said earlier what the $1 million question was, but there's a second $1 million question. Just how extreme can Western civilization continue to go? Or I should say, continue to get? Because I've been around long enough to see some things, but what I've been seeing in the last 10 years, I would have never thought I would have been seeing in my wildest dreams. But as always, I appreciate those of you who tuned in. Continue to support, and I'll continue to make content. I appreciate all of you. Blessings.